Good morning.
Morning.
Is that Neil?
Yes, Scott. Neil.
Hey, hey,
Hey.
thanks for being here. How's it going?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Oh, doing well. Just staying busy, lining things up and knocking them down every day, you know?
I know. I know.
Looks like we got Kim is in the meeting with us. I don't know if she can hear us. I think
Yes,
she might be moderating.
Hi.
Oh, hey, Kim. I thought you were Kim Griffin. But you're a
Nope,
different
Kim Smith. I'm a different Kim. I know Kimberly.
Yeah. Hi, Kim.
Hi.
Thank you for being here. Well, we'll get started here, I'm sure. And just hope there's Julianne. She just got in. Seeing her. Can you hear me, Julianne?
Yes, actually, this is Imani. Julianne's at a doctor's appointment.
Oh, good morning, Imani.
Good morning.
We're starting to get some people in here, it looks like.
Okay.
Imani, can you see my screen yet?
Yeah, I see Scott Hardy, Director of Technology.
Correct, yeah.
Mhm.
Very good. How about you, Neil? Can you see my screen?
I think he stepped away for a sec.
Maybe. Kim, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see your screen.
Okay, perfect.
I might move
Good.
laptop though.
What's that?
I said I might move to my laptop. I didn't know if I
Oh,
was going
okay.
to need my laptop to work, like to do the work that you're talking about, but I can't really see the screen as well. So
Today will be information. Yeah, you're not going to be following along and doing and
Okay.
performing tasks. I'll be sharing information and ideas today, and we'll talk, and give you an opportunity at the end if you want to do something.
Okay.
Yeah. Anybody watch the hurricane last night?
I wouldn't say I watched it, but I've been keeping up with coverage.
I was born and raised in Lake Charles, Louisiana, which is, of course, where the storm passed over last night. So I'll admit I was up till about 4:30 this morning just watching all the storm chasers and the live footage.
Wow.
It was a monster hurricane for sure.
Yeah, they were saying it was like unsurvivable or something. It's really scary.
Yeah, they were saying the storm surge was unsurvivable, but then lo and behold, there was hardly any surge at all for Lake Charles. I mean, it was, you could see dry pavement with puddles literally this morning, and people were commenting on what a oversight that prediction was. I mean, I'm sure towards right at the coast, it was, there's obviously a surge, but it was definitely a survivable surge in Lake Charles, but the wind was devastating. I mean, it destroyed the whole city. Unbelievable.
Wow.
So they didn't escape it. They definitely took a hit right on the chin. So
That's wild.
Fortunately, all my family and everybody that lives down there no longer lives there at this point. So it's just kind of memory lane for me, trying to recognize the footage, where they were and things like that. But Imani, it's 11:30. Do you want to give a little bit more time for people to join in, or shall we begin?
Let's go ahead and start.
Okay. Well, good morning, everybody. Thank y'all for being here. My name is Scott Hardy. I'm the Director of Technology for the Rawls Group. The way I fit into the organization is I spend the majority of my day, every day, focusing on the infrastructure and the daily laundry list of IT needs to keep our 6 market centers running at an optimal level. And in the past, I had sort of a dual role. I spent a lot of time in the KW product support. I don't do that today, but back when I did, before our command product emerged, I was heavily in the training role and taught a lot about the previous systems, including this website domain class. And this has been one of the little carryover classes. So it's a pleasure to step back in that role for a minute and get a chance to talk about the domains and kind of revisit this class. And before we get into this too much, I want you to know that I do understand how the domains work and things like that. I don't spend an entire amount of time for a living working with domains and optimization and SEO and things like that. But I'm familiar with it because I do run the Rawls Group Help Desk website, and a lot of the information that I have that I know I've learned in the last 10 years of running the site, and I'm happy to share that information and bring details to light. And so with that in mind, I will tell you that we're going to go through some information today. I'm going to present it to you, and we'll give you an opportunity to make some observations. And we'll also have some time at the end where if we want to try and apply some of the information that I'm sharing with you today, I'll give you an opportunity if you actually want to try and purchase a domain or configure a domain. There'll be time today for that. Or if need be, you can actually schedule time with me, and I'll show you how to get on my calendar here at some point where we can go into like a one-on-one consultation later in the calendar and give you some direct help applying some of the information that I'm going to share today. Sound good?
Yes.
Before we get any further, I will tell you this a little forward. What we're going to be focusing on today definitely falls into the category of advertising. And so I want to just up front just remind everybody that it's important that you follow the advertising rules and regulations that Rawls Group has put out. If you're not familiar with those requirements, you can obtain a copy of those regulations from your compliance broker. I think that's going to be Sherry Respi at your office. And just wanted to keep that in mind, that anytime you're doing marketing, including website content, website domain creation, things like that, it's a good idea to double check with her to make sure that those are compliant before you go live, before you put a lot of time and energy and money into an idea. I would definitely recommend taking those concepts to Sherry and just make sure that things are compliant. It's probably a good idea. All right. So what exactly is a domain? Why do we use a domain? I'll show you. Everybody, I hope you can see my screen. If you can't see my screen, raise your hand. We'll help you.
Looks good.
If you're looking at my screen, I have a website on my screen for you here, affordablegeorgiacabins.kw.com. Do y'all see that? This is my command website. You might recognize this if you have a command website. This is the latest agent website platform that Keller Williams provides to agents. And what I've done here is I've just kind of modeled a fictitious business as if I'm selling cabins. I'm not in production or sales. I've always been technical my whole time with Keller Williams, but I'm just role playing the idea that, well, maybe I sell cabins for a living and this is my website. And so that's the purpose of this template being launched. But where I want you to focus your attention is to the address. Hopefully you can see that. I've got it highlighted there. The web address here for my KW page is https:// and then affordablegeorgiacabins.kw.com. This is the web address from my website that was given to me by KW, and it's fully functional. It works. It's up all the time. And I could use this without even going and buying a domain. I could use this on my marketing collateral, like business cards and signs and my email signature. And I can try to build a brand around this domain, affordablegeorgiacabins.kw.com. But there's some things you'd want to consider before that. Namely, you want to look at the structure of this domain and realize that this is kind of a complicated domain. And the reason it's complicated is because if you look closely, it's broken up into sections. There's this section here, Affordable Georgia Cabins, and then there's a period, and then there's a KW, and then a period, and then a .com there. And that's kind of difficult for marketing purposes, because when you talk to consumers, you're marketing to consumers, they don't think in terms of something, something else, .com. We want to clean this up, make it as simple as possible, and we'll get to that in just a minute. The other challenge, probably a bigger challenge with using the Keller Williams provided domain is, while it is reliable and it does work, it is owned and maintained by KW. And that means that the domain name is subject to change without your input at all. So just imagine if you were to take, if I were to take affordablegeorgiacabins.kw.com and put that on my bumper stickers and coffee mugs and t-shirts and magnets and marketing, flyers and farming neighborhoods and things like that. And I put a year's worth of time and energy and money into building that brand. And then let's just pretend that KW made an announcement in a year and said, guess what? We're rebooting the whole website initiative. We're going to do it a different way. Everybody's getting new websites, and you're going to get a new domain name. And they went forward with that and made a change. Well, if they change the structure of this domain address, the moment they do that, all your marketing efforts, as far as your written out domain, would then be broken, right? If somebody a year after you gave them a magnet finally decided to key in this address, but KW's changed it, and they get an error message, that would be a failure, right? That would be the wrong result. You don't want people to type in your web address and then they get an error message that the page has been moved or is no longer up, right? And the reason this is important is that has actually happened in the past when we had previous products like Playster and Market Leader. We haven't always had just this little segment right here. That's changed over the years. Last product, it was KW Realty. My old address used to be affordablegeorgiacabins.kwrealty.com. And before that, on eAgency, our domain name was affordablegeorgiacabins.yourkwagent.com. They changed, and that's KW's prerogative to do so. And it's real important to see that, because I understand that, because I see this on a lot of people's marketing, and I cringe when I see it. I think, oh, man, that's going to be really frustrating at one point if something changes. Now, I don't know if there's any change planned. I doubt it. KW seems to be really attached to this new product because it's in-house and it's not a vendor system. It's in-house to KW, so it probably won't change, but you never know. It could. It's subject to. Or maybe something changes in your world. And you want to be able to have a domain name that you're in control of. So that's probably the first thing I would say is really important to understand is, while this does work, we want to do something a little bit better than using the handed domain name that KW gives us. If I go to simply www.affordablegeorgiacabins without the KW, notice that my page still comes up. It comes up because I actually went and I purchased this domain name. This is not the name given to me by KW. Notice it doesn't have the KW in it anymore. It's just a traditional, straightforward www.something.com. In this case, affordablegeorgiacabins.com. And that's possible because independent of KW, I went and I purchased a domain name and then I connected it to the KW product. And that's what we're really going to be talking about today is what makes a good domain name? How should you select a domain name? Where can you get a domain name once you have an idea of what you might want to do? And then how do you configure it and set it up? And then we'll have some time to talk about it. Everybody with me? All right.
Yes.
So
Yes.
buying and selecting a domain, in my opinion, begins by visiting GoDaddy.com. You've probably heard of GoDaddy. They're a household name. if you haven't heard of GoDaddy, if this is all brand new concept to you, I'll tell you that GoDaddy is one of hundreds of thousands probably of companies that will sell a domain address to you. But I like GoDaddy for several reasons. One, I've got great experience with them. I think that they are, when you compare the price, the uptime in terms of reliability, how often the product goes down, it never goes down, by the way. I don't think I've ever seen them go down. And combine that with the customer service, I think that they're the best value. They're not the cheapest out there, but they're extremely affordable, in my opinion. And sometimes people say, well, you know, there's another vendor out there I can get $5 cheaper on my domain, so should I use them? And, you know, there's nothing wrong with using a competitive domain register. They're all standardized. They all have rules that they have to follow. So from a baseline, all domain registers like GoDaddy and its competitors all offer the same basic functionality for domains. It's all standardized by the internet community. But there are some different features that different providers will offer. And so they're above and beyond that baseline. And I think GoDaddy does a pretty good job of giving you a really good, stable product for a good price with terrific support. So I like to go to GoDaddy for domain purchases. And when you navigate to GoDaddy.com, the first thing up here is this field for finding your perfect domain name. And really what this is about is just brainstorming ideas and coming up with an address for your business, for your website. And it can be for your command website or independent website that you purchased or built yourself. Doesn't have to just be the KW Products. Any web project that you've got in mind, you can come up with a domain name, buy it through GoDaddy. And that begins by finding a name that's available. The premise here is that it's on a first come, first served basis. For example, if I wanted to be realtor.com, could I do it? Let's find out, right? If I search to see if that's available, we already know the answer, right? It's taken. We all know realtor.com was taken that years ago, right? But this is what you do. You basically brainstorm and try to figure out what's available. And if something is taken, then you keep thinking. If something's available, then you consider purchasing it. A couple things I would tell you while you're looking for a domain name, a couple tips is I would always recommend that you spell things correctly. I see a lot of times people will look for a domain that's available and what they want is not available, so they'll kind of tweak the spelling so that it becomes available for them. And I would recommend staying away from that. I'd recommend spelling things correctly. And I would also recommend using .com as your extension. That's what that's called right there. So something .com. If you'll notice, there's all kinds of things like .digital, .cc. See these offers are saying, well, what this page is saying is realtor.com is taken, but you might consider some of these other ones here. Look, you could be realtor.solutions or realtor.org. Well, some of these are reserved for very specific things. .com is usually for a commercialized business. .org is usually, that's going to be a nonprofit organization, churches, for example, do that. .edu is for schools. .net is usually for internal corporate networks and things. And some of these have just been created for marketing purposes. .solutions, .farm. You know, this is what the GoDaddy's in the business is doing, is selling domains. So they started creating these boutique extensions. But see, if somebody already has realtor.com, the company realtor.com already has it, and you said, you know what, I'm going to go for this realtor.cc, it would be available. Look, for $6, you can buy that. That could be your domain. And it would, mechanically speaking, it would function great. But you're going to cause probably some conjecture with your consumers, because your consumers think in terms of .com. So imagine telling somebody, hey, yeah, go to my website. It's realtor.cc. And they get home, they're like, man, I really enjoyed talking to Scott. I'm going to go check out his website. What was it? They're likely going to put in realtor.com. They're probably not going to remember a boutique extension like that. So stick to it. Stick to the .com if all possible. I think those are two good tips. Correct spelling, and use .com. And when you're coming up with a domain name, there's really a couple different models that you can sort of adapt, and business models. And one would be if you're a referral business. It's enlarge your customers or people that know you, and you've got relationships with them, and you're just really trying to establish your corner of the web and trying to get a memorable recognizable domain name and you're just branding your web presence, and you would say that most of your business is referral business, then there's usually a pretty wide variety of domain names that you can get. But if your business is more lead generated and you're really trying to connect with those have not met, people that you've not met, people that are connecting with you, not because they know you, but because your offerings, your value propositions, things like that line up with what they're looking for, it's a little bit different model. And we'll get into a formula that I've got for you for that type of business. If you're just getting started and you're not sure, if I ask you the question, are you more of a referral business or are you more of a lead gen business and you're not really sure, and you're just really getting kind of your toe in the water, I'll tell people a lot of times that a first and last name make for a really good starting point, because domains are cheap. And you might come up with something like, if I put in Scott Hardy, and by the way, capitalization doesn't matter. I started to just have it to capitalize my S there. If I did scotthardy.com, I think I put a comma in there and checked. That would be a great starting point, except for the fact that it's already taken, and it's not me, by the way. It's a guy. Sometimes people ask me, do you do Western Silversmith? Because there is a guy named Scott Hardy out in Arizona who's got a silversmith company, and that's his web address. So he beat me to it, scotthardy.com. And you can see these offerings, scotthardy.co. Of course, that'd be a problem. So if I was the first to check to see if scotthardy.com was available, and it was available, I could register it, and it'd probably be about $12 or so a year. It's an annual renewal. And let's say I took that and used that for the next 6 months, and then as my business developed, maybe I had some better ideas for my business and maybe some ideas for a domain name. You can always buy another domain name and just collect domain names. There's no limit to the number of domain names that you have. They can all point to the same location. I could have 5 different domain names that when you type them in, my KW Command website come up. We'll talk about that in more detail. But for those that are just getting started and just saying, hey, look, okay, I want to get a domain name, but I don't know where to start. Don't be afraid to try your first and last name and see if it's available, just to get things started. And if you have a difficult name in terms of spelling and pronunciation, I would still recommend spelling the name absolutely correctly, because that is who you are, and it helps you stand out as an individual online. So, if your name is John Smith, there's so many John Smiths out there, you're likely not going to get it, because John Smith, the first one, has already been taken, I'm sure. But if your name is unique, that could be to your advantage. So let's talk for a minute. If you answer the question, what kind of business do you have? You said it's a referral business, mostly. Those are really easy domains to come up with. If your business is a referral and you're just really just trying to complete your marketing kit, if you will, your marketing collateral, there are some things that you can do, such as, I could do something like maybe, I see stuff like this, Scott Hardy sells Atlanta.com, for example. It's available. This sort of thing can work pretty well for a referral-based business. What is that? $1 for the first year. It's a promo they've got, and then it probably goes to $12 a year after that. It's pretty affordable, And so you could pull the trigger on something like that without a great amount of expense and get the ball rolling. So you could play around with just phrases and strings of text that just sort of identify you and communicate maybe to your customer database, your CRM that already knows you, you could even say things such as Scott Hardy, I'm failing to come up with an example, but I think you get the point, where you can just come up with just whatever you want, as long as it's available and if you like it, and as long as it doesn't conflict with the advertising rules and regulations. It's pretty much open game. You can just do whatever you want. Most people that come to me and talk about finding a domain name are coming in to asking me because their business is more of a lead gen business, and they're trying to connect with those folks that they've not met. And that's where things get a little bit more tricky. We'll spend some time talking on that. So if I'm up here trying to figure out a domain name and I'm targeting people that have not met me, I have not met, It'd be awesome if I could get something like homesforsale.com. But you probably guessed it's already taken, right? In fact, a lot of times people say, oh man, the good domains are already gone. There's no good domains left. And I disagree with that. I think that there are some good domains left, and I think this formula I'm going to share with you will help you find some that you may actually really like. And here's how I do it. There's 3 components that I usually look for when building a domain that makes my formula. And if you're taking notes, this is what you want to write down. Use geography. Combine that with value system, and combine that with a niche. So here's what I mean. Remember my cabins example? Let's say I want to sell cabins for a living. Wouldn't it be great if I had cabins.com? And that was probably purchased by somebody 10, 15 years ago. You know, he had to be really early in the domain naming game to get cabins.com. But how cool would that have been if that was my business? Now, this is an example. This word cabins is an example of a niche. And when somebody tells me all the good domains are gone, I think they're saying really all the niche domains are gone. You know, if I wanted to be a car guy and said, hey, I want to sell cars, cars.com is already taken, right? We already know that. But if you start applying this formula, it'll start to open up some options for you. So instead of cabins, let's say that I went for adding some geography to it, such as Georgia. Let's see what we get. Well, interesting turn of events here. It is available, but it's not affordable at all, right? It's $20,000. We'll talk about that in just a second. So the components here are cabins is my niche, and then geography is Georgia. And using that formula, it's not even the 3 pieces yet. That's just 2 of those 3 pieces. You can see where we started to open some stuff up to say that all the good domains are gone. This one's not gone. It's available, but it has been classified as a premium domain. So what's going on here is it's a really good domain name, and GoDaddy knows it. And they're claiming it to be a premium domain, and they're putting a value on it saying, yes, this is available, you can purchase it, but it's such a good domain, it's going to cost you $19,500 to get dibs on it. And then once you pay that, then you can register it for $17, $18 a year. Now, that's a pretty hefty price, I think, to get into a domain name. $20,000. I would definitely do some research on that before, some feasibility study before I jump in the pool for $20,000. But I will tell you that there's been some previous endeavors where I wanted a domain name that was good. It was classified as a premium domain in it, and the price on it was $1,000 or $1,200. I did one time. I actually spent just under $1,500 to go ahead and claim a premium domain, and it was a successful domain. And so it's not completely unrealistic. I don't know why it's 20,000. I mean, is it really that good? It must be that good. They must already have analytics on it, and they predict this is going to really work well. I don't usually see 20,000, 30,000. I don't see those price ranges. Usually what I see on premium domains is, 5,000 or less, maybe 6,000 or 7,000. And in the grand scheme of things, if it's a direct hit and a direct match to your business and your branding, then you might consider a premium domain and say, you know what, it's $2,000. It's a business expense. I'm going to put that, in my marketing ledger and go ahead and do it. It may make sense. Let's push forward though. Let's get that third part of the formula in there, value system. A value system is something that sets you apart, from your competitors, something that helps you stand out to your target demographic, right? I like to say value systems pinch a nerve, the nerve of engagement, right? There's something about a value system You're pinching a nerve on your target demographic that they will respond to you and engage in your marketing. And so in this example, Georgia Cabins, you already know my web address because you saw it at the beginning, but affordable was my value system. And if I select that, it's not available because I actually own it, right? It's taken by Scott Hardy. I bought it just for the sake of training these classes. It doesn't have to be the word affordable though. You could turn around and you could pinch the nerve of engagement, not on somebody looking for an affordable Georgia cabin, but somebody who maybe wants a luxury Georgia cabin. Somebody took it. Last time I did this example, it was still available. How about, what's another value system for cabins in that sort of market? Maybe lakefront Georgia cabins. And it's not $20,000. Look at that. It's $1 a month, and then goes to its regular price, which is, I guess, between $12 and $18 a year. And lakefront Georgia cabin sounds like a pretty good domain, I think. I mean, that was just off the top of my head. Here's some other examples. Let's say that I want to do something in more East Cobb. All right, so what if I did something like East Cobb homes for sale, maybe. It's taken, right? In this example, East Cobb is my geography, and then homes for sale is the niche. But if I start putting in something along the lines of, maybe I can look at this differently. Maybe I could say that the niche is homes for sale, and maybe I look at East Cobb as the value proposition. In other words, maybe I look at East Cobb as the thing that's going to pinch a nerve of engagement, and I use something else for geography. Right? Maybe I can do it like Walton, because I know about Walton High School. Walton East Cobb homes for sale, it's available. Maybe I could just do Walton homes for sale. Let's see. It's taken. But if I get that geography in there, Walton East Cobb, oops. It does become feasible. And I could look at this in different ways. I could say Walton is maybe the value proposition, and East Cobb is the geography, and homes for sale is the niche, right? So somebody who's relocating or wanting to live by Walton, that's what's motivating them. And if I was wanting to live by Walton High School and I did a Google search for homes for sale in East Cobb, and I saw East Cobb homes for sale come up, and then somewhere else on the page I saw Walton East Cobb homes for sale come up, that's going to connect with me on a certain level as a consumer that's looking to buy a home near Walton, right? All of a sudden, I'm probably going to hit both websites, but I'm for sure going to hit the one that's laying down what I'm trying to pick up. You know what I mean? And so you can play with this and you can say, wow, Walton East Cobb homes for sale is available, relatively inexpensive, and it does match up to my target demographic, and it could be a feasible domain. But at this point, I often would get some pushback from an agent who would say, well, that's great, it's available, but I'm not really trying to pigeonhole my business into just being the Walton East Cobb homes for sale. I got to have a feasible business plan here, and I've got to have a wide net and try to get the attention of various demographics. And that's where I would tell you that buying domains is much like fishing, in my opinion. If you want to fish and you want to catch a bass, well, you're going to need to get a boat, and you're going to need to get bass bait, and you're going to need to go where the bass are biting, right? And you're going to need to drop the right bait in that area. And if you want to get brim, then you're going to need to have the right equipment for fishing for brim, and go to where they're biting. If you want flounder, same thing. You're going to have to modify what you're doing to line up with that target. And so with domains, it's very similar. You may actually, if you're doing lead gen based domains, you may actually have multiple domains. And sometimes that's a big aha to people. They think, oh, I thought I was just going to buy one domain. It's not uncommon to have multiple domains. once you buy this domain, you can point it to anywhere you want on the internet. You could point this to your command website, and I could turn around and say, you know what? Maybe I'm going to be the high school realtor. In other words, I'm going to focus on high schools as my value proposition, as my pinching that nerve of engagement. And maybe you modify the value system, Walton, and put that in, take that out and put it in Lassiter. Did I spell that right? Lassiter, I think that's right. So I'm keeping my geography and I'm keeping my niche. Oh, look, that's available. And push further. Maybe I go for, I can't get my cursor to work. What's another one? Pope. Pope East Cobb Homes for Sale. So maybe I have a collection of domains that I capitalize on when I'm marketing to certain demographics. And I could actually go and buy all three of those domains and successfully point them to the command website. So if somebody's doing a Google search for homes for sale near Pope High School, maybe my domain would come up in the search results, and I would get a conversion there where somebody's actually come into my website because of one of my multiple domains. So using this formula, I think, opens up the playing field for possible domains. But if you start playing around with this and you're getting frustrated with it, I would encourage you to get on my calendar, and I'm happy to walk through some of this on a one-on-one basis with you on a 30-minute appointment. You can always go to Rawls Group Help Desk. That was just my bio, but here's my Rawls Group Help Desk. We've got these two big buttons: create a ticket, do a remote tech session. If you do a tech session and then click on my name, right there, my calendar will come up. And the green slots are what I have currently available, and you can go over and see what next week looks like. Should have some openings. So you can pick one of these time slots here. Say, hey, I need a domain consult. You know, I'm happy to walk through this and be more specific in what I'm saying to your business, you know, and try and help you brainstorm with getting a domain name.
Scott?
I will show you a quick tool. Yep, go ahead.
So on the bottom of that name, where you have domain available, there's starter kit, essentials plan, and e-commerce. I don't know if this applies to what we're talking about at all, but I'm just wondering.
Hey, that's a great question. I really appreciate that question. So GoDaddy, they sell all kinds of stuff, not just domain names. If you look at their menu of what they sell, you'll find that domain names are more than just a destination on the web. There's all kinds of things that you can do with a domain. If you take credit cards and you're a merchant online, you can have hosted transaction servers. If you're a small business and you're trying to put your organization together, you can run email and file sharing and stuff and have all kinds of features that are part of different packages and plans and things. And that's what a lot of the stuff is that you see at the bottom. They're offering different add-ons. And what I would recommend to get things started is just buy the domain name to get things started. You can always come back and add these things. I know this says save up to 45% when you bundle your domain and website now, but the reality is you're probably, these are decent bundles, but you just don't probably need them at the beginning. Once you get the ball rolling, you can go in and you can maybe select some additional bundles or some components and sort of pick and choose what you might need. But a lot of this stuff, KW is already doing for you. If you look at their best value, the first thing is a multi-page website. Well, KW is already doing that for you, right, through command. Domain privacy and protection, we'll talk about that in just a minute. SEO marketing and tools, 1-year professional email. You know, KW is giving you email. KW is doing SEO and marketing tools to a certain degree, certainly marketing tools. I got to be careful saying SEO, search engine optimization. KW doesn't have an SEO initiative, but the products are SEO aware. I'll say that. So a lot of this you're getting through KW. And so just in my opinion, if you're going to be using the command website, I think just purchasing the basic domain is a great starting point. Now, things may change. There's nothing that says you have to use the command website. I know plenty of agents that actually don't use the command website, and they do something more custom. And at that point, maybe some of these other features would make sense. But I probably would not build a real estate business website through the multi-page website options that GoDaddy have. I'd probably go to a web developer or a third-party vendor and do something that, you know, real estate is in their wheelhouse. You know, it's like what they do, you know, kind of thing.
Right.
So I hope that answered your question. But
Thank
for
you.
now, I would recommend just purchase the domain.
Yes, it did. Thank you.
A tool, you're welcome. A tool that I like to use to sort of kind of check the pulse on my ideas of a domain name is SEO book. Here it comes, .com. Just watch this for a minute. Don't try to follow along necessarily. First off, you'd have to have an account set up to be even able to follow along. But just watch this. I just kind of want to make you aware that these tools exist, and this is something you can do on your own, or if you want to do a consultation with me, I'm happy to play through this sandbox with you. But if I log into SEObook.com, it's a free service. I think I'm actually already logged in. If I go to the tools section here and get into public tools, here's something I think is fascinating. They have keyword suggestion tool. This tool set is really for writing content. It's about writing competitive content. So this is not about necessarily buying a domain name, but the principle works. You can actually use this keyword suggestion tool, for example, and this allows you to brainstorm some ideas. So for example, homes for sale. If I type that in there and do a submission on it, it's going to come back and tell me how often this phrase is being searched by consumers in Google on a monthly basis, which I think that's really interesting to know, especially if I'm trying to come up with some names or content. And here you go. You can see based on my query, I did homes for sale. There's home for sale. Here lately, I noticed the search volumes, they're calling them very low, medium. I don't see a lot of high marks lately, and I don't know if that's just representation of where the business is right now, because usually I see medium to high, but here lately I've seen a lot of very lows, but it still gives you some information. Homes for sale, there's exactly what I searched, homes for sale. Oh, this has got to be an error here. It's saying 0 hits. I can't imagine homes right here, homes for sales, plural. It's got 232,000 queries a month. And at homes for sale, which is very similar, has 0. I find that surprising. I think that's an error of all things. But this tells you not only what your exact interest is, homes for sale, but it also shows you similar. So if I'm thinking homes for sale, then I come over here and look and see, well, what are people really searching? You know, this is telling me right here, home for sale, 100,000, 1.1 million. Is that right? 100,000 million? That's hard to believe. A lot of hits. People are actually searching that. Now, the trouble with this is home for sale can be all over the United States, right? So you want to think that through and realize that geography is important. You don't want to be a little bitty fish in a big pond. You want to be a medium to large fish in a smaller pond. So maybe you come over here and you start playing around with this and put some geography in there, like Georgia homes, or Georgia real estate. Spelling definitely counts. Try that again. Okay, here we go. So Georgia real estate is even in the list. I don't even see Georgia real estate the way I just searched it. I don't see it in the list, but it's showing me suggestions that are similar. Atlanta, Georgia real estate, North Georgia real estate. You're actually seeing some hits. They're calling it low, but this is telling you a real number. This is telling you that, you know, according to SEO book sources, 2,000 people searched the phrase North Georgia real estate last month. And if you're on a nationwide campaign, I guess 2,000 is not a lot, but if you're on a North Georgia campaign, that gets my attention right there. And I think that's fascinating to be able to understand what people are searching and just get it sort of a glimpse at it. You know, if you thought you were going to do something like Georgia cabins, probably, I don't know, see, it's probably a lot of rentals. Yeah, I remember that before by looking. For sale, for example, probably not going to see too many. Well, look at that. It's actually pretty good. I guess people are going into the cabin district, you know, interest. But you can take a look and see what people are actually searching. And so you might modify what you plan to use based on some of these words that you're seeing that people are actually searching. You know, North Georgia cabins for sale, for example, that gets my attention. So maybe North Georgia cabins. So I can come back and use that. it's okay that I'm not using the whole thing for sale. Let's say North Georgia Cabins. Let's go to GoDaddy and see what we can do with that. And I'm just playing with this in front of y'all, you know. I mean, I didn't work this out ahead of time, so let's just see what we get. Cabins.com. Is it taken? Of course it's taken. But what have we got here? North Georgia, that's geography. Cabins, that's a niche. What's missing? Value proposition. Luxury, that could be a value proposition. Somebody's thinking like we're thinking. That's my fallback word for luxury. Available, posh, North Georgia Cabins. You know, maybe you could do something like amazing. I don't know that I would use amazing, but in this example, let's just say I did. Are people searching amazing North Georgia Cabins? No, they're probably not. If I put in the word amazing in here, they're not searching amazing, right? What they are searching for, though, is Georgia Cabins for sale. North Georgia Cabins are being searched. We know that because we're seeing that over here in the tool. I'm the one who's introducing the value proposition, so I don't expect that value proposition to show up in SEO Book's tools. In fact, if I did see it, I'd be concerned and think, well, the whole point of a value proposition is not just the nerve of pinching the nerve of engagement, but it's to stand out from my competition, you know, to filter myself out from all the competitive noise out there. So I think it's a good thing to not see my value proposition showing up in the SEO Book, right? If I'm seeing my geography and my niche showing up, that's a good thing. And then I'm going to introduce the value proposition, a unique value proposition. You probably heard people in marketing talk about what's your unique global value proposition, you know, and the fact that it's identifying me, it separates me from value. So that could actually be a fairly competitive domain name. Hope that's making sense to y'all. I'm not trying to make you an expert in this tool. All I'm trying to do is just open your mind and realize, oh, there's some tools out here. And if this kind of thing interests you and you want to talk about it, get on my calendar. I'd be happy to go through it with you and we can throw some words around to see what comes of it, you know. And then once you think you got something, run it by your compliance broker. Say, hey, I'm thinking about doing amazing NorthGeorgiaCabins.com as one of my domains. Or I've got 10 domains I'm thinking about using. Can you just check them? Just have Sherry check them out. Make sure that they're acceptable. Let's switch gears. I will let y'all ask questions here in just a minute, but let's switch gears and talk about how to purchase a domain for a minute. If you've never bought a domain before through GoDaddy, they have a 99-cent incentive. I always do the search 99-cent GoDaddy, and it's funny because they're always advertising, hurry while supplies last before it ends, and they've been running the 99-cent GoDaddy deal for about 20 years now. But if it's your first domain, you can get your first one. Here, it looks like a good link right there. GoDaddy domain, 99 cents. You can get your first one for 99 cents, which is a pretty cool deal. How's it work? Let's see. Where's my little thing to search? Oh, I'm logged in at the moment. Let me log out. It's saying, no, you can't do it because it has to be your first initial account. So let's try that again. Kind of got lost there. Let's see. See if we can hit it now. 99-cent domain. It should let me get a search here. Well, maybe they changed it a little bit. Let's see. You might have to actually create your account first to log in. In the past, when I've seen this before, you could actually do the search, put it in, and it would come back and say, yep, that domain's available, 99 cents first year, and then you click on a button to create your account. But it looks like here, you probably have to create your account first. So let's just take that as information that knowing if you are doing your first domain through GoDaddy, you can get a 99-cent domain and basically set it up for the first year for 99 cents, and it goes to the retail value. Let me get logged back in here, and I'll show you a couple things. And I'm not sure who asked the question earlier about those extra add-ons, but following that same vein of thought, when you go through the purchase process, they will offer you all kinds of add-ons and packages and stuff. And I would say the same advice applies. Don't feel pressured to add all those things at that point in time. You can always go back and add them, even if they're promoting as a discount. The products are fairly affordable. It's not that big a deal, I don't think. This is what the account looks like once you're logged in. If you've never had an account with them before and you're creating one, you'll go through a little process. It'll ask you to put your credit card information in, your billing information in. But once you've got that in there and you purchase a domain, this is what the dashboard looks like. And what I want you to see for a minute is how do we configure a domain. And if I'm logged in, and if I look at my list of domains, here's all of our domains in our department. There's the help desk right there that I use every day. And here's affordablegeorgiacabins.com. Again, I'm not trying to make you an expert in this, just trying to wake your mind up so you can see what it looks like, what all's involved. This is something that I'm happy to do for you if you have a domain, need it connected. But if you're just curious, I'll let you see real quick how this process works. And it's through managing the DNS. I'm going to break it real quick. I'm going to break my DNS real quick. And I don't want you to see me do it because it's confusing. It's the opposite steps to what I want you to see. And so let me break it real quick and then we'll come back and add it. So take just a second here. Meanwhile, while I'm breaking that, I will tell you this, and I should have told you this at the very beginning when I was introducing everything. Everything I'm telling you today, you can review at rawlsgrouphelpdesk.com if you go to videos and then go to training library and then website domains. I realized about 10 minutes ago I forgot to tell you all that. It's been bugging me, so this is a good time to show it to you. Everything I'm telling you today is contained in this slideshow here. The only difference is when I wrote this slideshow, it was written for Playster in mind, and today we're doing the command sites. So there's a little bit of variance there, but the concepts of everything I've told you today are all through in this slideshow, and you can watch it. This is everything we cover in the slideshow, and it's however many slides, 45 slides. So you're welcome to check that out and watch it. And there's some videos that are contained in the slides that will walk you through the purchasing of the domain so you can see what it looks like. Because it's hard for me to demonstrate that if I'm not actually doing it. You know, it's been done, and so I can't undo that and just walk through it. So it's a good reference there. Okay, just so I got that broken for you so you can see how I connect it. I'm waiting for it to tell me, confirm that it's done. Let's go see here. It may take a minute for everything to break. And Monty, do we got questions starting to form in our chat or anything yet?
Yes, there is a question from Kim. She said, once you have set up the domain name and have it linked through command, she says that the website she's using works on all her computers and phones, but Libby has tried it on her laptop and it gives her an error saying the site can't be reached. Do you know why that error is coming up?
My first guess would be that it could be related to browser history and cache. Mm-hmm. Maybe worth checking to see if she can see that in an incognito window or clearing her. Did you say the mobile device is not working or the computer device is not working?
The computer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would try in an incognito window.
Okay.
Like in Chrome, you can go over to Chrome and you can say incognito and see if it works. And if it does, then that's a pretty strong indicator you need to clear your history and cookies and cache on the browser. Okay. Mm-hmm. So it's broken now. If I type in Affordable Georgia Cabins, we get instead of content, I get my GoDaddy telling me, hey, thumbs up. This is not what you want your customers to see. You want your customers to see content. So here it is. This is how you connect it. I'm going to log into, I'm logged in here to my group, to my GoDaddy account. That's what it looks like from the very beginning when you're logged in. I can go to Manage Domains here. You can see my list of domains. There's Affordable Georgia Cabins. I'm going to click on it. And what I'm looking for is a place to edit the DNS. And in this case, there it is right there. And it looks like it's in a different place than it was a minute ago. I think it's because of the state that I've got the domain in. I broke it, and so it's now kind of in a sandbox. So the layout looks a little different in the tools. But the key is I look for the Manage DNS. That's where I want to be. And what we're seeing here are what are called DNS records. And at this point, you don't really need to concern yourself with these records here. If you make changes, you could definitely, if you do it wrong, you could definitely bring the website down to its knees and cause it to crash. So be particular if you ever do go into the records and start making changes. But in order to connect affordablegeorgiacabins.com to my command website, what I want to do is I'm going to come down on the DNS till I get to a section called forwarding. And you can see that it's not set up. That's what I broke. So to add forwarding, we just click on add, and then it's asking me for a destination, wherever I want to forward it. So I got to figure that out. I can figure that out by going into mykw.kw.com, or actually, I'm sorry, that's old school. We can go to agent.kw.com, right, to get into command. You probably recognize where I am right now. We should have our websites are underneath the consumer icon down here. I'm on this vertical navigation, almost to the last one, consumer. Click on that. And if you're following this and you're saying, I always get here and I can never get to this spot right here, agent site pages. If you try to get there and nothing comes up, or you get an error message, it may be that you need to get set up in command, which is outside of the scope of what we're going to talk about today. But if that's happening, if you're getting error messages, or you're trying to do what I just did, navigate to agent site pages, and you don't see this right here, which reveals my issued domain, that's what KW, that's what I've got. I selected this through KW. Then you might need to get with, who's the tech ambassador right now for East Cobb? Imani? Is it Kelly?
I think, I'm not entirely sure.
Carrie, it's Carrie Qualters, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Right, so Carrie is probably a good person to help you out with that, or get with your agent services and just say, hey, I need to get my command set up. But by navigating to this agent site pages, it shows me what my current URL is for KW. Notice it does have the affordablegeorgiacabins.kw.com. Now I selected that through KW, but it does have the KW part in there. So this is not what I want my consumers to use, but I need this to tie it all together. So I'm just literally just going to copy that string of text there. And I'm going to use this information over at GoDaddy. Where'd you go? There it is. To supply the answer for this question right here. Where am I forwarding? I'm going to paste that in. Here's a pro tip for you. Make sure if you're ever pasting stuff in fields like this for domain registration DNS, double check you don't have any spaces at the end. Make sure that cursor is flashing right against the end of the M. And then I like to go and review the beginning and just make sure there's no spaces in the beginning. Make sure it's clean, a clean paste. And then notice here, you can see that they're asking me to tell them which protocol it is. And you can see clearly it's HTTPS. So that needs to be changed to HTTPS. And here's the other thing is you can't have the HTTPS written in this field. You got to take all that out. See how they've got it implied right here, HTTPS : / So I'm going to make it so on this side, I'm just going to take that out. If you try to save it with that in there, you get an error that says call support. It's this big mystery of why it's not working. And you realize, oh, I got the protocol in twice. Question that people ask me is, do I do permanent 301 or temporary 302? I suggest permanent. Just leave that at permanent. And now the question about forwarding only or forward with masking. Here's the difference. If I say forward only and save it, then what will happen is once it's saved, when somebody comes in and they type affordablegeorgiacabins.com into their web browser and hit go or enter, it will successfully hit the GoDaddy server. it'll see the forwarding rule, and it'll send them on to my final destination, which is affordablegeorgiacabins.kw.com. But here's the thing. In the address bar up here, it'll say affordablegeorgiacabins.kw.com, and I don't want my consumers to see that. I don't want them ever to learn that. So if you turn masking on, this allows you to conceal that information, and you can doctor up this with this title here. I can say, and at this point, I would actually recommend capitalization, not for functionality purposes, but just so that it's easy to see. If I put www.affordablegeorgiacabins.com in there, and then save it, then what that's going to do is it's going to mask the underlying domain that KW gave, and consumers will just see the affordablegeorgiacabins.com without the KW in the middle of it. This title will also be used exactly as you spell it up here in these areas here in these tabs. So every website has a title, like this website domain slides and parentheses, that's the title of that web page. GoDaddy domain name search, that's the title of that page. So however you write it in the title field, it will follow the cap sensitivity. So that's an opportunity to make it stand out, make it easier to read by employing the capitalization in there. So I put that in there, and you can go ahead and save it. Now, it does give you opportunity for description and keywords. I would say at this time, don't put that in there, because incorrect description and incorrect keywords can actually damage your site performance in terms of Google ranking your page. I'd recommend leaving these blank for now and save it, and then come back at some another time when you're sitting down and really got your SEO hat on and you're thinking in terms of content and optimizing content. At that point, once you've generated content, come back and put a description and keywords. Don't feel the pressure to put it in now. It'd be far better to have these blank at this point. So I'm going to save that. This purple band across the top is actually a progress bar. I'm just waiting for it to disappear. Once it disappears, and it should be gone in just a moment, I'll know that the configuration has been updated. Interesting fact about GoDaddy, they're fairly quick. Oh, see, it just disappeared. I've seen some discount registers. You register them, you make a change, and it takes 24 to 48 hours for the change to take effect. That took about 20 seconds, which is another thing I really like about GoDaddy. So hopefully, it's always fun to do this in a real world example of a live audience, but hopefully it's back. Let's see, affordablegeorgiacabins.com. Not yet. Let me do it incognito just to make sure my browser cache is not the culprit here. And it could just be, it takes a few minutes. affordablegeorgiacabins.com. Yeah, I can tell it redirected. There you go. So in this case, what's happening is my browser remembered the last time it went to that, it got the GoDaddy page, and it's just being lazy and not actually trying to find the content. It says, oh, I've been to that web page before, and it's just loading the GoDaddy error page. That sort of thing will clear up on its own. It varies depending on the connection you're on. If you're at the office and you're on the AT&T, which is an AT&T connection at the office, by the way, it updates pretty regularly. But if you're at your home on a residential connection, it could be 24 hours before an update is given to your web browser. So you can force that process by clearing your history. If you go to, where's history? Oh, there's no history in incognito. So if I go to my regular browser, if I went to history, there it is. And just cleared my history, browsing data right there. I'll say for all time. I'm going to leave things like passwords unchecked. I don't want to get rid of that stuff, but I'm just getting rid of my browsing history, cookies, cache, clear that. Then that should expedite how soon your browser will see the newest changes to your website, including DNS changes. All right. Let me just check my notes here real quick, make sure we've talked about everything I meant to cover. I think we have. So, Imani, if we want to open this up for questions, I've got the time. If y'all have the interest in questions, I'm happy to try and answer some of those.
I don't have any more in the chat, but you guys feel free to chime in.
Sure. Did anybody learn anything today?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Nobody?
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
I just have one question, Scott. So
Okay, sure.
if you're in command, you don't do the redirect from command. It's always in GoDaddy that you redirect back to command as opposed to the other way around.
Correct. And I'm answering that question having been out of command. I mean, at one time I was in the KW products on a daily basis. Today's the first day I've been in command in 2.5 months. So I just want to make sure I understand your question. Are you asking hypothetically if there's a place in command to redirect, or did you see something? Have you come across something and you're asking about something you came across?
It's something I came across where I was seeing it. You had to pick a name for your website in KW, and then it had something under it saying about a subdomain, and I wasn't sure if that's where you would then put that name in to redirect it to GoDaddy. I just got confused by that piece.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that area now that we've clarified that. So, right, so subdomains is just a way that if you had like maybe a team, or if you had various value propositions, if you had different marketing initiatives, you might take your domain and cut it, your KW domain here, and cut it up even further with subdomains, and that's what that's about. I don't know many use cases for that, and it's certainly not the forwarding that you need to do. The action is at GoDaddy, and once you've done it at GoDaddy, then you can pretty much just set it and forget it. It'll forward for you. So I think you got it.
All right, thanks.
So here's something interesting that I'll point out to you. If we're looking at the layout of a command page, if I go and I look at, let's see, that's a little trick here. Oops, that's our old error message. So if I go to affordable, see, it doesn't even remember I've been there because I cleared all my cache and history. There we go. GeorgiaCabins.com. Hopefully it comes up. Yeah. Okay, good. So here's a trick that I think it'll work. So if you click on your logo, it reloads the page, right? But if you right click on the logo and say open in a new tab or new window, and I did tab, I'm gonna click on the tab, it breaks out of the masked forwarding and reveals the underlying URL, which is gonna be interesting for this example. So now I'm sort of getting around the masking. And consumers could do that, but most consumers are not gonna be doing what I just did. That's just a little loophole I found one day and I said, oh, look at that. I can see what the relative URL is. But watch this, as I navigate, watch what happens. If I go in and look at, let's say, About Me. Do you see what happened now? It became affordablegeorgiacabins.kw.com/about-me. This web address relates to this whole page right here. If I go to another page, such as my Contact Us, affordablegeorgiacabins.kw.com/contact, every page has a relative URL. Don't be thinking about the forwarding right now. Put that on your mind for just a minute. If I go into the command website here, and if I start creating pages, which I'm looking for, oh my goodness, where do you, create, that's a new site. I have to be careful because I don't get in the product that often, but there's got to be a place to create a new page here. Let's see, landing pages. I'm flying by the seat of my pants. I hope you don't mind. But I really want to connect this idea. I don't know what's going on here, but I'll connect the dots here. So these are the various pages that you can create in your website. What if you went and created a new page that matched up to a handful of domains that you had? Let's say that your domains in the formula, you had the same value system in niche, but you mobilized the geography. Like, for example, when I was teaching the website class on a regular basis, I used to have like 5 domains that I would talk about. I had affordablegeorgiacabins.com, and then I mobilized the geography. I also had affordableBlueRidgeCabins.com, affordableHiramCabins.com, affordableBlairsvilleCabins.com, and I can't remember the rest of them. And then I would create a page for each one of those geographies in here, because I knew that each page you go on, just like the About Me, for example, it has its own web address. And what I'm getting at is you could take this and you could go to GoDaddy for each domain you have. Let's say you built a page called Affordable Blue Ridge Cabins. Well, then it would be affordablecabins.kw.com/Blue Ridge, for example, if that was the name of my page. You could take that and register this address at GoDaddy in the DNS area for your, domain that matches up to that geography. If I bought a domain called Affordable Blue Ridge Cabins, then I could put my Blue Ridge page, not my home page, but my Blue Ridge page as the destination for that domain, and do that for each of my various domains. So that makes, when somebody does a search and they do a search for Blue Ridge Cabins for sale, and they find me in Google and they click on it, they would enter into my page that's built just for that particular topic instead of landing on my home page. Does that make sense? If not, it's something I can work with you on an individual basis. But my point of going there is, I feel like we're just sitting here talking about this stuff for a minute, is I mentioned you can have multiple domains. And while that's true, think about the value of having multiple domains that are pointed to hotspots, if you will, in your website. Instead of having 5 domains point to the same landing page, your home page, put some worthwhile content in your web page and point those domains to the content that relates to the value proposition of that domain. There, I think I said it the way I wanted to. I got my ears on. Anybody got a question or comment? All right. Amani, where do you want to go to next? Shall we adjourn, or do y'all want to do anything else?
Yeah, if nobody has any other questions and you're all good, then I guess we can end it.
Awesome. Well, listen, everybody, I really appreciate y'all being here and giving me your attention. I hope that, this was valuable to you. I hope you learned something. And if nothing else, I hope that your mind is awakened to some ideas that, if you need clarity on that, I welcome you just to get on my calendar. It doesn't cost you anything. There's no limit to the number of appointments you can do. Get with me, and I'm happy to spend 30 minutes to an hour and, and just focus on you for a minute and try to help you, navigate some decision making on your domains and things like that. That's what I'm here to do. I enjoy it, and just glad to be here. So thanks again, everybody, and y'all have a great day.
Thank you.